Let me start. Share my screen and then I'll start. So welcome, hostess again. So masters, let me know if you all can see my, and I'm going to just start the, can you all see it? Really, ma'am?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes.
So like I said, the book we are reading is Buddha's Wife. And thanks, Ravali ma'am, for reminding us that this is one of the favorite books of Patri sir. There's a session where he had one whole session on this book and he, in his own voice, explained too. So if you get a chance, there should be some links somewhere. Y'all can listen to that too. So because Yashodhara's story is important, like he himself, Patri sir mentioned in his own words, we all are aware of Buddha and his struggle, how he went through and attained enlightenment, and he gave us the Eightfold Path. But how many of us are aware of his wife Yashodhara, who was left behind the day he left with a young, newborn baby? So she too, she had struggles, but she overcame, and not only just by herself, but with the whole community. She brought the community out of those dark times that they had that time. So it is a story for all of us to be inspired by. So these authors so wonderfully have put it in a beautiful narrative form from Yashodhara itself. Janet Surrey and Samuel Sham. So let me go into a recap. So yesterday, I talked about the authors because I felt it was important for us to know who these authors are, where they come from. So they're a couple, Janet and Samuel Sam. They both had their own struggles. They met in college, they were sweethearts and they wanted to get married, but they went their separate ways because of their career choices and their own thing. But that brought some kind of strain in their relationship. But then later on, they come back because they miss each other. And they both have their moments of awakening. Like Sam, when he goes to UK, there's a voice within him, deep within him, when he connects with his own spirit or soul. It tells him, that at least I am. And that gives him a big sense of being. And I think that's a profound connection that he made. And that changed his thought process. So he quits what he went to do. He goes to do a research in neuroscience, and he quits that. And then he decides to follow his passion. And I think that's a message for all of us. When we connect with what we love, like, what you really want to do, that's what the soul is here to experience on this earth. So whatever we may study and want to do, and these worldly things, we may get caught up in that job and getting money, raising children. But we need to take this time, and thanks again to Patricia to help us use the meditation as a tool to connect to us and figure out what is it that our soul is yearning to do, because that's what we are here for, no matter what. So when you do what you're yearning, like Sam picked, he wanted to write, so that's what he wanted to do. So he decided to quit all. He gave up his relationship and went to do the, he got scholarship and went. But then when he got the realization, he quit and he comes back. And they both consciously try to have a relationship together again. And they do struggle because they have gone apart, and they have, like, she's completely into women's liberation movement and psychology, clinical psychology, and he's into writing. So that also tells us that relationships don't just blossom just like that. You have to work on it. So they consciously make an effort. And actually, it is Sam who decides to support Janet. She's into Buddhism and spiritual. Into spirituality. So he decides to join her on her one of her retreats, and then that's where their spiritual journey starts together. They connect, and from then on they're together, and that's what they come across Buddha's teachings. And Yashodhara, the character of Yashodhara, really intrigues them because it connects to them. They too went through the separation, and Yashodhara was left by Siddhartha when he goes forth trying to find solutions, and later on he becomes Buddha, but she's left behind. And so they are like, they give a lot of thought to Yashoda. They do a lot of research, like I said, like an archaeologist, how he digs. They came and they did a lot of interviews. They read all these texts, and then they came up with this book, which is basically Buddha's wife. They co-authored that. They spend a lot of time. It's just not, it's not a biography, but it's like a factual biography. They took the facts and they stitched it up, and they put their the book. In the book, it beautifully says, like, they integrate Buddha's teachings, which we all talked about yesterday, the Eightfold Path of right view, right speech, right action, right effort, right mindfulness, etc. And then they brought out that Yashodhara's path she also attained enlightenment later on, as the Buddhist texts say, and they call it the right relation. So that's another path for us to being in relation, how we can still, may achieve awakening or enlightenment. And it is through community. So the word Sangha was introduced yesterday. Community is Sangha. So they integrated Buddha's teachings and Yashodhara's feelings, all the things that she went through, and then their own experiences. They intertwined those into the story. So as we read the story, there's a lot of messages for all of us. And I mentioned, right, relationships are like at the heart of all of us, all of our lives. Everyone has some kind of relationship, mother, daughter, husband, wife, friends, colleagues, and boss, employee, teacher, student. It doesn't matter. We have relationships. So they're at the heart of our lives. And some relationships are, they give us joy, but there are always some struggles with the relationship. So there are a lot of great takeaways in this book for us to handle, those struggles. And it also gives us a middle path, Yashodhara's path. It tells us, like, Buddha's path was to set forth alone to find answers for his, he wanted to find answers for all the suffering in the world. And he set forth alone. He wanted to do it, go sit under, and he found his way out by going out alone. Whereas Yashodhara stayed back. She actually took care of her relationships and her responsibilities. And through that, she still, she also achieved enlightenment. And her mother-in-law, which is Buddha's stepmother, Pajapati, she's a great strength for her and guide, mentor. We'll come to know that. So I had left you all with a question yesterday saying, for someone to gain enlightenment, is it necessary to go forth alone, or can we live an ordinary life of relations and responsibilities and still be enlightened? Is there a middle path? And like many of you all will agree, it's not easy for us to leave what we have, everything, and just go sit and, we knew, like earlier times, many people, that's what they used to do. If they really wanted, they would go into Himalayas, sit and in the quest and find their answers, right? But thankful to great masters like Patri sir and others who have given us sitting at our home and the technology tools like these, where we can discuss and be in Sangha or be in community and still come up with, answers for our problems. So this is what we discussed, masters. So let's continue. And like I said, Yashodhara, it is important for her to tell her story because she went through all this. She too gained wisdom, and her story was different from Buddha's, who set forth alone, right? Whereas she stayed back. So not only that, she was in relationship with the Buddha in all manifestations, like he was her first love. Then he was the father to their child, Rahula, and he was he was also her husband, and he was also Buddha, the teacher, whom later on, everyone followed. So she had to be in relation with him in all ways. So later on, when she even comes across him, there is a lot of struggle going through her, because she has to figure out what is her relation with him and overcome all those, right? So her struggle. So let's listen to her story from these are her, what she could have gone through. The authors have kind of brought it out. And so, like yesterday, again, I request all of you to actually not just hear, but listen. Then I again explain, listen is a more active term than hear. Hear is just a mechanical thing, which our ears can just do. But listen is from your heart, from you drop all your judgment, you drop all your thoughts, and you connect with the character, and you empathize with the character. So let's listen and go on. I will tell it like a story here, but later on, as the authors have weaved in many other things, I will bring, the book has beautiful, beautiful reflections. I'll bring it in at the end and in between too. So Yashodhara, when I introduced the characters, I told you she's a princess, and she was raised in a different kingdom, but they both knew each other. Siddhartha is the name of the prince, and he later on becomes Siddhartha Gautama is his name. And when he gets enlightened, which is what Buddha means, the enlightened one, so he's called the Buddha. So Siddhartha and Yashodhara know each other. They are related. So they grew up together. So, and when she was 14, Yashodhara, this was long back, right? 2,500 years back. So when she was 14 and they considered her eligible for getting married, that time there was this festival called Swayamvar, that's what they used to call, where all the eligible prince will come and display all their skills of archery, of horse riding, and swordsmanship, etc. And whoever comes out as a winner gets to marry the princess. That's how that's how the ceremony used to be held, and that's what they did for Yashodhara. And Prince Siddhartha also goes there. So he actually comes, he does all these beautifully, all his, he triumphs in archery, swordsmanship and everything. And he thinks that's how he won her heart. But actually, Yashodhara's heart was not won by all these skills. It was later on when they were having a quiet time together in a mango grove. They were sitting down, and he was telling her about the story when they were young, right? I said they grew up together also, but he remembered a story, and they were connecting. They were having a moment of, sitting and connecting together. And he told her the story about a swan. And this story, is what actually made her fall in love with him, and for his kind-heartedness and courageousness. It's a beautiful little story. So let me just go through that story. Siddhartha, he was relating to her. So Yashodhara's brother, Devadatta. So like I said, they were related, right? So Siddhartha and Devadatta, they were cousins, and they grew up they were in the palace gardens. And Devadatta was practicing his archery skills. And that is what the prince and all do, right? Mostly they have to learn all these swordsmanship, archery, and because they are kings, they're supposed to protect the kingdom, and they need these skills. But Siddhartha was sitting, and then he saw a swan, which was injured by Devadatta's arrow, because Devadatta was practicing, and it hit the wing of the swan. And the poor swan was so terrified, it was lying there. So Siddhartha's heart melted for it. So he took up the swan, he removed the sword, and he was tending to the swan. He was taking care of the wound. And then Devadatta came and saw that he was holding the swan. He was really he demanded, he said, "That's my swan. I'm the one who hit," because he said, "That's what I was doing. It's my game. I hit it. And it's I need to take it to the king and get rewarded for it." because King's would he is showing his skill, right? So he wanted to take it, and he also wanted to serve it, like, for dinner. But Siddhartha did not let go of the swan. He said, I am going to keep it, I'll heal it and release it and set it free. And he says so beautifully here, he says the swan belongs to the one who saves his life, not the one who takes it. So this is how his heart was, and this is how he used to think, even from when he was young. He said it belongs to the one who saves and not the one who takes it. And Yashodhara, like I said, when she heard this, she understood how kind he was, and not only that, but she praised him for his courageousness. And when she says, how courageous you were, because that is not the norm. All the kings, all the princes, they're supposed to behave like that, right? They're supposed to hunt or practice archery, and then they're supposed to shoot or kill the birds. And that was like, the kings would praise them for that. But Siddharth went against the norm. So she said, you really went against the whole law of the land. And Siddharth says, no, I never thought of it like that. He said, in such a beautiful, reverent tone, he says, I felt it was the right thing to do. He didn't think it was some bravery or courage on his part. He just said, when I looked at the swan, I saw myself in the swan, and I saw the swan in me, and I could not watch him be killed nor walk away. So, masters, just look, this is what we learn in oneness, right? And it is not just among people, but oneness among everyone, animals. So he could see himself in the swan, or the swan in him, and he did not want it to be killed. And that is how Siddhartha's nature was from when he was small. He would stand up for what he believed in. He did not want to, he knew the king would be angry, but he knew this was the right thing to do. And so though even Yashodhara says it is courageousness, he says, no, I didn't think it was courageousness. I just felt it was the right thing to do, so I did. So she falls in love with him for this, and they both get married. And after they get married, Yashodhara, she comes and stays with Siddhartha in his palace. And if you remember, like I said, Siddhartha, the king, Sudodana, wanted to protect Siddhartha, because there was this prophecy that Siddhartha would grow up to become either a great king or a great spiritual leader. And the king wanted to protect him from seeing any suffering, because, like I was mentioning to you yesterday, in our life, it is these any major, suffering or struggles, they are the moments when we start connecting to our deep, our soul, or our thought process, spirituality starts to set in when we see that. So these are the right moments. That's what the author calls. They are the moments when you transform yourself. And King Suddhodana knew if he saw suffering, Siddhartha, if he saw anywhere, his heart would melt, and he would start, he would go into spirituality. So he built walls around the palace, and he provided everything for Siddhartha. Like all his books were there. There was a library, school, friends, games for him to play. Everything else was provided. So Siddhartha had no need to go outside the palace. At the same time, the king, like I mentioned yesterday, removed all people who were old or sick, and he provided it, like, outside the palace walls. He had another city built for them, and they were moved out there, so Siddhartha wouldn't come across them. And so Yashodhara comes, and she too is within the palace, and they both shared they both had a quest for reading books, and especially spiritual quests together. So they would sit hours and hours in the palace library, and they would go through the books and take each, that time it was all on the bamboo mats, like, right? So they would take each one, and they found, once the author mentions, there's this mantra, which is which just said, I am. And they both would sit there and they both would just go deeper and deeper into the into what it meant. They understood that it did not mean that it was whether they were Siddhartha or Yashodhara, or whether they were prince or princess or man or woman, and it meant even deeper than that. And just like when I said the author Sam, he had that moment, right? That at least I am, that deep sense of being is what this I am actually resonates. And that's what they would spend just taking that one statement. They would spend hours and they connected together. They loved each other. They had a beautiful friendship. And they also shared this spiritual quest. Then there's this other beautiful mantra. Mantra is it like a chant that we can use while meditating, or we can think on it, to find more answers. So the mind makes abyss, and the heart keeps crossing it. So abyss is like a deep, bottomless pit. So mind plays games with us, right? Anytime mind wants to always make it look worse, like it always pushes us into that negative questioning and thoughts. So when they're saying this abyss, usually it is any of these grave problems we come across. So the mind takes that and makes it like a bottomless pit for us. And if we let it, like you get caught in that, it will keep putting you in that loop and it'll keep taking you through that. And it's the heart that helps you cross it. Heart meaning love, basically. So, and the Siddhartha and Yashodhara, whatever problems they came across, they used this mantra many times. They helped their love, the love for each other, help them cross out of it. So even though King Suddhodana tried to protect him from seeing suffering, life takes its own turn, right? You can't protect how much ever you want to protect, you can't. Siddhartha still, after marriage, they didn't have kids till like 15 years or so. So that for any king or a prince, or an heir is someone they look for, or even a child is what a couple look for, right? So it was a troubling thing. They did go through struggles, Siddhartha and Yashodhara. So, but they got through by using this, the love for each other brought them out of it. So they never fell into the deep pit, So this is how their relationship was. They were having a wonderful life, both of them, but always Siddhartha had this in his mind. He was always looking for some answers. There was something bothering him, because that was his nature. And he always used to discuss with Yashodhara, saying, that there were so many questions in his mind that he wanted to find answers for. So the king doesn't let him go out. So once he has this charioteer, right, Chenna, who's grown up with him more than servant, he's actually his friend. So he tells Chenna, I want to go and see the outside world. One evening he tells him, so let us go. So Chenna doesn't want to disobey the king, but he is a great friend of Siddhartha, so he agrees, and he takes him outside the palace. And till now, Siddhartha had never gone out and had never seen anything other than what was inside the palace. They had he was given everything and he had everything, but he was never completely happy. So he wanted to see what was outside. So when Chenna takes him out, everything he sees is like brings curiosity to him. So, and this is the first time he actually comes across suffering, and he has never seen. When he goes out, they come across a person lying down on a bed, and he's ill. So he's in pain and he's lying down, he can't move. So Siddhartha is very curious. Siddhartha, he asks Chenna to stop, and he says, what has happened to this person? Why is he lying down like that? Why is he in pain? Why is he looking like that? So Chenna says, this man is sick, he's ill. And so he's not able to move, and he's lying down. So Siddhartha is like so curious. He says, what is that? Does that mean, will I be ill one day too? I am a prince, right? I won't be ill. So then Channa says, no, every human gets sick sometime or the other. It is, illness comes to everybody. It doesn't matter you're a prince or you're a regular person. So this disturbs Siddhartha. He's never seen. So for him, this is bothering. Why is that person suffering so much? And they move on. Then they see a man completely bent down and walking. And he says, why is that man looking like that? Because the king had removed all the old people, sick people away from. So Siddhartha had never seen even an older person like that, really old. So he says, what happened to him? So he says, he's an old person. As you age, that is how your body becomes, you kind of, bend down and you don't have much energy. And that is how you look. So he says, again, he asked the same question. I am a prince, right? And will I also become old one day and look like that? So Channa says, that is the truth of life. Everyone has ages and everyone becomes old. It won't spare you or the king. Everyone will grow old. And this is how they proceed, and they keep proceeding. And then they see one more, person. There was a person who the people were walking and carrying a dead body. So he says, what happened to that man? So then Chenna explains that person, the soul left his body. And he says, what does that mean? Will my soul also leave? Will I be dead one day? And Chenna again explains, that is the fact of this life. Everyone who is born has to die. No one lives forever. So then Siddhartha, all these things, just as he went out one evening, he saw all these, and his mind is all disturbed with these thoughts. And they go further, and then he sees one monk sitting under the tree. He hardly has any clothes. He's just with a basic robe. He's sitting there and meditating, and he looks so peaceful and happy. Siddhartha looks at him, and then he asks him, I can see that you don't have many clothes to wear and you don't have anything with you, but you still look happy and peaceful. So then the monk tells him, in order to be happy, you don't need all these things. When you connect deep within you and understand who you are, and that will give you peace. So this gives him, Siddhartha is very, he's very confused, because in the palace, he's seen people have a lot of money, lot of wealth, but there's a lot of greed going on. And there's they don't look happy. So that was what was bothering him inside the palace. But when he saw this monk peaceful and happy, and he looked like he had no worries, nothing. So this is what triggered his quest. And he came back, and he would share this with Yashodhara, and he would tell her that I can't sleep at nights. All this is bothering me. And he even asked the king to let him go out, and in search of, he wanted to go out and figure out more answers for all these things that are bothering. But king wouldn't let him. He would say, no, you are the next king. You're going to become the next king. So Siddhartha tried. And then meanwhile, Yashodhara became pregnant too. So he didn't know, he didn't want to leave her and the baby. And he struggled this. She could see that he was going through this struggle every day, that he wasn't happy in the palace. He felt very suffocated being in the palace, inside the palace. So one day, Siddhartha, he decides to leave, and he just makes this decision. And he knows if he doesn't tell Yashodhara too. Usually every time when Yashodhara wakes up and she doesn't see him, she knows that, because he just whispers in her ear saying, I'll be back, or something like that, and he leaves. So this time when she wakes up, she sees that he's not there. But Siddhartha actually goes to Chenna at night, and he tells him, I can't stay like this here. I need to go find answers for all these suffering. I need to figure out what is going on. And he tells Chenna to take him outside the palace. So without telling anybody, because the king wouldn't let him, so even he won't tell Yashodhara also. And they just had their baby just the night before that. They just yeah, the day before that, that's what the author says. They have the baby, and Siddhartha just leaves, and Yashodhara is here. She wakes up because the newborn baby is next to her, and with the cries, and she sees that he's not there, and her mind starts thinking, where is Siddhartha? And he did not even say bye. Usually he says bye, like he at least says, I'll be back or something. So there is this thinking going on, and she knows at the back something is not completely right. And she still continues. And as she lay in the bed, lots of thoughts keep coming to her. She remembers how they met, how they fell in love. And her mind is like reasoning with her, trying to tell her, also giving her all kinds of scenarios. And mostly our mind gives us negative scenarios. And that is what was happening to her also. At the same time, she was trying to convince herself, saying, no, we both love each other. He might have not left. She has seen him, right, all these past few weeks. He's been very restless and he's not happy. She knows that he wanted to leave and like find answers, but the king wouldn't let. So deep in her heart, she knew that maybe he left, but then she reasons with herself. This is what happens to us also. Our mind keeps putting questions, we keep answering. This is the first state of shock, but she's still not in shock because she's not, it's only the thinking process. So her mind itself poses her a question, and then she herself answers, like, could he have, how can he leave? We just had a baby. He couldn't have left, right? And then also she's like, we both shared a spiritual path. We discuss everything. So he has mentioned everything to me. So she convinces herself, and she's lying there. Meanwhile, Siddhartha tells Channa to take him outside the palace, and he tells him, I have to leave the palace. If I stay inside the palace, I cannot find all the answers by staying, because there isn't. He needs to go outside the palace where the actual suffering is happening, and he wants to see and be and figure out what the answers are. So he says, I cannot stay inside. And then he leaves, gets down, gives all his robes, his jewelry to Chenna, and he takes, actually he gives it to a monk, and he takes the robes from the monk. And then he tells Chenna, please give this sword to the king. So he wants to send the message that he's left. So the sword, and then he takes a lock of his hair and he says, give this to Yashodhara and his pendant, whatever. So he wants to let her know that he's leaving, and for her to know, he sends these items with Chenna. So meanwhile, like I said, Yashodhara is still contemplating. She's not completely sure what happened, and she's lying in the bed with the baby and thinking. And Chenna enters, and Chenna too doesn't know how to give the news. Chenna is, he's been with Siddhartha a long time. He's a good friend of him and of Yashodhara too. So he does not know how to come and give this sad news, because he knew it would break Yashodhara's heart. And he comes, and usually as soon as Yashodhara sees Channa, she has doubt, because usually Channa is a very lively person, happy, always, upbeat and all. He has a little limp. He had injured his leg and he walked with a limp, but he was always a very energetic, happy person. But today he wasn't like that. His face was all twisted with confusion and sadness and pale. And her heart, she could feel inside something was not right, and she was worried, and she just looked at him. Chenna just stood quietly, because he didn't know how to tell it to her, this news, how to give it to her. So he comes, and he handed her, without saying anything, he handed her the lock of Siddharth's hair and the golden necklace that he sent for her. And as soon as she sees that, the first thought that comes, the mind takes you to the worst scenario, obviously, because she already had this thoughts in her head that he left. And when he brought the chain and the hair, she's like, is he dead? That was her first question. She was so worried and she didn't know what else because she saw Channa's face was grave and pale. And then Channa says, no, he's not dead. And so that kind of gives her a little of relief. She says, thank God. What then? What happened? Why are you looking like that? So Channa is like, how can he give that news to her? It will hurt her so much. So he finally comes and he tells her that Siddhartha wanted to go and he had taken him outside the kingdom, and he sent his horse back and the sword and this necklace and hair to send a message back. And he has given a message saying, do not follow me. I'm going forth for the good of all beings. See his thoughts. This is what he wants to find answers for, so that he can help everybody. And that is a true guru, right? Who's the spiritual quest, who's on spiritual quest. And he says, this is the message Siddhartha has asked me to give to all of you, that he says he's on a quest to find out answers for all that is troubling, and he wants to do it for the good of all beings. So this leaves, we'll go into how Yashodhara feels after this. And I want to do that whole thing as a session because it is a grief cycle that she goes through. I want to take you all through the whole cycle of shock and how she handles and others. So I will not go more deeper into the story. And I also wanted to remember when I introduced characters, I said there was this character called Gautami. I wanted to bring that story up because it has been mentioned, and later on, actually, after Siddhartha leaves and it becomes Buddha, and Yashodhara and Prajapati, they all also go and they become nuns. That time, Yashodhara tells Gautami, Gautami is one of the nuns, one of the foremost nuns. She tells her, you need to tell your story because you have received a lesson, a wisdom, and everyone needs to know that wisdom. And hence we have the story of Gautami. If you read Buddha's text, there is this story called the mustard seed mother, and that is what Gautami's story. And I put it here, and usually the book, if you see, it begins with the story, but I put it here, and it was not fitting anywhere else for me. I was continuing with Yashodhara's story, and I wanted to put it at the end, maybe after I finished the third day. But today, the thought came in the morning, for me, after I read the news about our great master, I said, this story needs to be told here. This is that moment. So I think it was a message for me. So it just fitted right here. So I want to share the story with y'all and the lesson. And I think y'all will agree that it is maybe the right time to talk about it. So Gautami is a mother, like I said, it's a mustard seed mother story. If you look up any of the Buddhist texts, it'll be there. So she was a mother whose her child had a young boy, and he died. So he was only maybe 10 or something, and she was devastated. And death is something that comes unannounced, right? And all of us go into a shock when we see death. And let alone older people, that is hard. But imagine a young kid, for her, it's her young son. She just could not accept it. And many of us don't accept death. And of her son, she just could not accept. So she was devastated, and she just wouldn't let them bury her son. She would just carry that son. And she just went from person to person, please help me, please bring my son back to life. And that's what she kept saying to everybody. And she was going like a mad woman. She was going from here to there because she was stricken by grief and she was not accepting the death. And people were feeling sad for her, but they had no answer. So Buddha was there at that time. So they said, why don't you go to Buddha? He's an awakened one and he will give you answers. So she carries the body of her son, thinking he'll do some miracle and bring the son back to life. So she goes, and Buddha feels, empathy towards her, feels sad. And then instead of directly telling her, he tells her, okay, you know what, you go, I will make a medicine for you, but I want you to go to each and every house in the village and collect a mustard seed and collect a mustard seed from a house where death has not visited. So it has to be, she has to go to door and ask them if death has not visited, then get that mustard seed. And those mustard seeds, I'll make medicine for him, and I'll help you out. So she's in such a state of shock and grief that she and he's a awakened one. So she listens to him and she goes door to door, each and every house, knocks, and she tells her story. Look, my son, he's young, he died. And all the villagers are very empathetic to her and they listen to her story. And then they also sit and they also talk, they also tell their stories. Everyone has, somewhere not the other, death has visited, right? Some, maybe their father, their friend, their brothers, or grandparents, some. So they also say, we understand what you're going through, but yeah, we also have seen death before. And so she couldn't collect any mustard seed, but at the same time, everybody listened to her and she listened to everyone's story. And as she went house to house and listened, in that listening to, when that shared suffering, that is when she got the realization that she's not alone in this. When we go into a shock, our mind makes us believe that we are the only, there's nobody else, that it is happening. It is only happening to me. Why is it happening just to me? That kind of thing. So when she was sharing this and people were also being empathetic and telling their stories in this common shared suffering that they went through, she got the realization, and finally she got the wisdom that death is inevitable, the impermanence of life. She understood everyone who's born will die one day. That is what she understood. And then she accepted finally, and she let go and then buried her son. So from then on, she joined Buddha and followed him, and she became a nun there. And this wisdom that she gained, that impermanence of life. So there are many others, right? So it's not like we don't know, but when we're in that state of shock, we don't know. Like death is something that happens suddenly and we are not ready to accept it. Luckily, I am so thankful that I'm in this path, the spiritual path. And we learn, right, that we are not just this body. We are more than this. We are the soul, and the soul continues. The death is just for the body. So when we have this kind of wisdom and learning, at least we are able to accept, we don't see death as completely something that stops or something very devastating. And we know the soul comes here for experience, and that once it gets its experience, it moves on, and there is no death for the soul. But this young mother here, Gautami, when she had no wisdom, she just didn't know all this. It was hard for her to accept. That's why her mind went into shock and she was not accepting, and she just didn't know what to do. So the wisdom that she gained after that, she shares that with everybody, and that is why she was called the mustard seed mother. And here it says, the shared human suffering brought her out of her own suffering, thus liberating her. And she finally buried her son. So this is the important message that the authors are bringing for us. When we are in a sangha, shared group, listening to others. That's why every time, even Patri sir or any of these masters want us to share. And the more you share and you hear others also, we are not alone in this journey. Everyone goes through these things. That is when your grief doesn't overtake you and you know how to get out of it. So I will I will stop there. And then there is this beautiful reflection, like I said, I won't take too long. In the book, woven into, there's 2 parts in the book, and the authors have given this beautiful steps on the path of right relation. So many of you might have heard of the Vietnamese monk Thich Nhat Hanh, and he has given this group practices. And we have these 3 jewels, right, of Buddha. We have Buddha, Sangam, and then Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangam Sharanam Gacchami. So Sangha is the main one we are focusing here. So Sangha, like I said, is community. And what Thich Nhat Hanh has said is happiness is not an individual matter. So he's saying, being in Sangha, the happiness grows, right? This thing. And the authors try to add and say, in the same way, suffering is also not an individual matter. And suffering, when shared, decreases because, for one heart to hold all so much of, grief is too much. But when it's shared, it lightens up. So that is what the authors have added. Just like happiness is not an individual matter, suffering is not. And this led to the remarkable prophecy. And this is a beautiful prophecy. The next Buddha may be a Sangha. So Buddha is an awakened one, right? Just like how we have Buddha. So they're saying now in this community, this current world, we all, and that's why the book also says the path of awakening together. So the awakening happens as a Sangha. So the next Buddha may be a Sangha. So maybe we as a group, we can awaken together. So there is the rooting of spiritual practices is within particular relationships, whether it's couples, families, communities. And he says in interbeing, being with each other. And if you notice, and even I try to think, there's so much to practice in the house, right? Being with the whether it's my husband or something, trying to be non-judgmental, it's not easy. Your mind keeps saying something inside, you keep having judgments, even if it is your mother, father-in-law, husband, children, you may say something, but you're being judgmental. And practicing that, it can start right at home. Being in relation, we can practice that. And that will really heal all the relationships. You practice spirituality, practice non-judgmental, practice being oneness. That happens again. If you see them as you, just like Buddha saw the swan as him, when you see your husband or your child as you wouldn't treat them you wouldn't question why they're doing what they're doing. It would be just you would understand them more than judging them. So I think the spiritual practice, like they're saying, the root is in the relationship. And here are a few steps, mantras that are given by Thich Nhat Hanh. So I want all of us to say this. We can practice it as a group, or you can try and do when you're doing individual as meditation. You have to say it out loud. This is like, it'll help you come out of these grief and problem. So when we are in relationship, you want to say, dear one, I'm really here for you. Say it out loud, not thinking. You want to say it out. They need to hear. So say, dear one, I'm really here for you. If all of you can say it, it would be great. So we are all as the Sangha here, right? So let's all say, dear one, I'm really here for you.
Dear one, I'm really here for you.
Thank you. And we keep practicing this. And it's not just enough to say, I'm really here for you. You need to also say, dear one, I know that you are here and it makes me very happy. You need to acknowledge, the presence of the other in your relationship. I'm talking of spouse now, but it could be a child, it could be a parent. You not only are you there, but you know that they are there and it makes you happy. You need to acknowledge that. So we need to say it out loud. Dear one, I know that you
Dear
are
one,
here.
I know that you are here and it makes me very happy.
Dear one, I know that you are here and it makes me very
It
Dear
makes me
happy.
one,
very happy.
I know you are here for me. Dear one, I'm here for you. Dear one, I'm really here for you.
And it makes me very happy.
Dear one, I know that you are here and it makes me very happy.
Thank you. We are all here for each other. So anytime y'all are going through some sharing will help us. So I am here. I'm telling you, I am here for all of you, and
Dear
I'm
one,
happy.
I'm really here for you. Dear
Thank
one,
you.
I know that you are here and it makes me very happy. Dear one,
And
I
then,
see your suffering. That is why I'm here for you.
For
Dear
you,
so
one,
you
I'm
need to
suffering. Please
acknowledge.
help
I'm
me.
suffering.
Yeah,
Please
if you
help
see
me.
someone suffering, don't just say, oh, okay, they'll get over it. And it happens to me. If I ignore, like, I see my husband is struggling sometimes because he's going through some issue of his own. I see, but I say, let me leave him alone, because if I start, I'm like opening can of worms or something. That is not right. You are there for them. You want to go and say, I see your suffering, and that is why I'm here for you. So anytime you want to open up, you have to say it. Don't assume anything in relationship. Go and say. So say, dear one, I see your suffering, and that is why I'm here for you.
Dear one, I
That
see
is
your
why
suffering,
I see you
and that is
suffering,
why
and
I'm here
that
for
is
you.
why I'm here for you.
And finally, don't forget yourself. Dear one, I am suffering. Please help me. If you don't ask, they say, even God won't help. You need to ask when you need help. Don't assume people will see and they will come to you. Say loudly. Your husband, even they may be in their own thing, your spouse, your friend, your mother, whoever you need help from. Say, I'm suffering. Please help me. Because when you're suffering, your mind stops and you don't know what the right action is. And you need to reach out. So say, dear one, I'm suffering. Please help
Dear
me.
one, I'm suffering. Please help me.
Dear one, I am suffering. Please help me.
Thank you,
Dear
Masters.
Lord, I'm suffering. Please help
Dear
me.
one, I'm really here for you. Dear one, I know that you are here and it makes me very happy. Dear one, I see you suffering, you're suffering, and that is why I'm here for you. Dear one, I'm suffering. Please help me.
So I will share this with you all if you need, and please practice. Let us practice as a group and even individually, as maybe with the relation you have and whoever you want to practice with. These mantras give clear intention. There's no confusion. You're very clear on your intention and the attention which is needed in the relationship. When you say, I'm here and I'm here for you, that attention that is needed in the right relationship happens, and it helps us to share, to join, to know, and respond to suffering. We generally tend to turn away, like I said, right? Oh, it'll all go away. Let me just not. But you need to maintain a familiar and most, if you want to keep a superficial, like, it says, my relationship is very good with my husband or with my son. But do we really talk? Do we even say, are you suffering? I'm here. No, we just let them handle. At least I do sometimes. And on superficially, I'm saying we are all fine because we're not talking about it and all. That is not what the author says is the right way to handle relationship. He says you have to make an intention and say it out. They also help us to be in the present. If you have read, I think Power of Now or you Forever, they say relationship, you have to always acknowledge your partner and be in the present. They need to know you're there. Both of us are physically here, but mentally, are we there for each other? Or you are in your own office world and you're thinking of what to cook and what to do tomorrow, what to wear tomorrow. You're never there in full body, mind, and soul for the other person. So this saying like this and being with each other, be totally present to recognize, because we may not even notice what they're going through unless we are there in the present and see. So recognize when one is not there, and then to come back to being with them in the present. The emphasis is on the mutuality, being together. It's not what you say or do. No one gets it right the first time. It's what you say or do next. So first time you may say something and it may hurt the other person. So it happens. But after that, what are you doing? You go back and say, I am sorry, I hurt you. I did not intend, right? So what you do next is very important. We all make mistakes, but we need to learn from that. So masters, that's all I have for you. So thank you. I open it up.
Yeah, India ma'am, beautiful, beautiful story telling. and the way you connected to the things what we today life deal with, and all the points which I could really stress can be seen stressed by you was like right from how a parent pampers a child like Shuddhodana. He takes everything possible to make his child happy, and how Buddha, it's his character being kind, oneness, how you explained us, and definitely as a person in every relationship, be as a parent, be as a in-laws, be as a spouse or children. This book has really brought all those aspects of our life. It is not, I could see that prince or princess or king or kingdom. It was truly reflecting what in day to day in today's life, we all are experiencing this. We are king and queens of our own life, actually. But yeah, as how one can be choosing in their own role and still make that feeling of oneness is something this book really, puts that in practice. Basically, the second part of book, what you mentioned, yeah, it brings out that lot of reflection, which gives to understand not just the book, as an epic or as a, you know, biography, but then definitely the one which you can reflect in your own life and apply it. Thank you, Vindya ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lakshmi ma'am. I like the way you pointed it out. And yes, right, we are all kings in our life. How many, even though it is a story of that time, how many of us as parents don't try to protect our children, trying to keep them away from all the suffering, right? But I have seen these a lot of sharings these days, and where don't be afraid of these problems. Suffering is a choice. Pain everyone has. Suffering is a choice. When they come, we learn from that, and that is what has. Those are right moments for us. Through them, if we can stick together and follow all these strategies, that's when our mind plays game. Then we will grow and our soul is seeking all those lessons. So we can't just stop ourselves from going through those. So thank you for bringing that up. And rearing children, there's a lot more our other presenters will talk where the actual topic of children comes. But here also you see the king is trying so much. His main goal is the kingdom. Where does he come from? All his decision making, what is he doing? He's focused on that is his responsibility, right? He's taking care of his responsibility, to have a and for that, whatever power he has, he imagine building a whole wall and pushing people out, like taking out. He does whatever he could to be with his power, and we may do it too without knowing to protect. I've done so many times to protect. I don't want my children to get hurt or something. We protect them so much, but I think they learn better through their failures or struggles. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, India ma'am. Beautiful, beautiful navigation. You connected so well. I could even see how Yashodhara and Buddha, Siddhartha, how they connected. They were, talking in a mango grove. So I could really see, imagine, and the swan story, how it went with the, those things are beautifully narrated. And I love these mantras you practice with us. It's hard to get out of our mind. Usually they stay, but just a minute ago, you opened this screenshot. I just talked to my husband, like, is your face looks poofy? Are you okay? So it's like reminded me, oh my gosh, I did ask a little bit, at least I tried. So it's really hard. I know I practice within me several times, so it can really go into my mind. So thank you so much. You really connected the dot very well. So,
yes, Swarna ma'am, more than
thank you.
I think the mind-heart connection. So you need to get that heart connection.
Yeah.
Also. Yes.
Thank you, Vindya ma'am. Masters, really want to listen your perspective because we have talked a lot when we were discussing about this book. And I would just start with a light humor on that. But when we started to read this book, we all thought we'll be Yashodharas. And when we thought, oh, our husbands are Buddhas, and we laughed.
That's exactly right.
But
So they are more
yeah, so
actually they are
but
because they're more enlightened.
yeah, so it was just like a humor on us, but
But I stopped
we're
sharing so you can see is that
yes.
audio.
So we would really love to listen to your all perspective on how it is, because this I think this whole lifetime of ours as a soul on this planet Earth is trying to be a relationship manager. I would say relationships with other people in respective to whatever your profession is, starting from your house, being a daughter, being a wife, being a husband, being a son, everything is about relationship manager. So once you do that, I think that is what I think you have excelled everything. So we really want to listen to your perspective. Please give your perspective to this book that you have listened by India, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, masters.
Any questions? Yes, Usha. Do I need to?
No, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Hi, Vidya. Thank you again for another wonderful presentation.
Thank you for joining.
Loved your slides, because it helps us, recall what you are saying. You know, when you, as you're talking, if I can see the slide there, I mean, I was reading it along as you were talking. So it helps me to think through it and without missing some of the points, right? Because there's so much information out there. If you didn't share the slide, then I probably would have lost a couple of points in between. So that was very
I
nice.
won't take the credit for that much because Dr. GK says, if you have done his spiritual tablets, there's off screen and on screen. I am on screen, but people behind me, they are the ones who actually guided, and the book club, like Ravali ma'am, Dr. Lakshmi ma'am, Chandra said,
Right.
they did this, they insisted it needs to be, and they guided also. I think
Thank all of you then. Yeah, thanks to all of you. Going back to your point on Thich Nhat Hanh's 4 principles, I think, I mean, I don't know about the rest of the age group in the group, but, when you're 50 plus, you've lived so many years of your life trying to be more independent, because if you're not always in sync with all your relations, and if you're trying to get in, you want them to be in sync with you, but they're not, then there's a lot of conflict. So then you try to build your own wall, like, how Siddhartha's father the king built a wall to protect Siddhartha. You build your own walls to protect your own self, right? To say, okay, for me to stay sane and to keep functioning and not get bothered by other people, I will build these walls around myself and protect myself. Because no matter what somebody else does, I don't want that to bother me, right? So it is true what he has said. I wish everybody could practice it, and even if it will take a lot of effort to put all that into practice in terms of you may express it, but the other person may not reciprocate it back to you, and at that point, the thing is, we've lived 50 plus years of our life, and you are programmed like, okay, that person's not listening to me, so I'm going to start doing my own thing and safeguard myself and protect my own sanity and keep going, because I don't want to get into that conflict of how come you're not listening to me, and but I'm trying to be nice to you, why are you not being nice to me? And just whether it's at work or home, anywhere, right? You can't expect, I mean, our kids, all adults, right? So they may not, they may think, what's happened to you, mom? Why are you insisting on, be doing things exactly your way just because you're willing to do things, right? So I think it will take a lot of time, but at least it was nice to know that is what, I guess that is what an enlightened person would do probably, but I think I'm far away from that right now. But it's good to know that, that's the way it should be. That's the way the ideal world should be. But
I would add from the authors what they're saying. I would add the right relation also. It's not just like you mentioned everywhere, but you will find the right group. Maybe this is the group. Maybe it's some other group.
I mean,
wherever you find the right group, you need to. If you need help, you need to seek it out, right, and practice this. And once it becomes practice, you will start. If you see all those oneness, whatever, you will start empathizing, recognizing, and it will happen. So give it a chance.
I have to change my thing now. That's what it is.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yes, Usha ma'am, like I can hear you what you're saying. But I guarantee you that, it is possible to correct any relationship or anything. Just give a freedom to them and you get your own freedom. So you can take me as an example. My relationship was like a 360-degree opposite direction I was going. But now how beautifully I was able to change it. I can see my relationship with my spouse, my husband, is so beautiful. I always did, oh my God, thank you, God. So, he's finally, I'm thinking like I'm really a wife of this. I never thought. I wanted to thought, but my relation was going away because of these misunderstandings. But I worked on it after this meditation. So now he's accepting me and I'm accepting him. So it's like now we are living your real life. It's not that attachment, not expectations, but no expectations, no freedom. Give a freedom, full freedom, and get your freedom back, and you grow. Yeah. So thank you. I
so
just wanted
much.
to.
Thank you for giving
grow.
your. Yes, Srinivas.
Yeah, thank you, Nyavar, and it's a great session. I was just thinking, the last slide especially, right? I mean, I always thought, let's say, I mean, okay, so I have a problem. I'm thinking about something, and in a way, and I'm probably suffering in my mind unnecessarily, I mean, thinking about, what about this and that and all that, right? But I normally do not share, I mean, unless, yeah, with my wife or others actually, right? And I thought that's the right thing. Why put your burdens on other people actually, right? Also, like, based on your interest, right? Let's say I'm reading a book, oh, this is great, I'm really excited about it, but my wife is not interested in that, or in that book. Or let's say she's interested in something, right? She's interested in music, saris, jewelry, all of that. I don't want to hear all of that because I'm not interested in, so it's like, is that the right way to look at it? I mean, do you
I
share some
think,
things, based on the interests?
Thanks for bringing it up. But what I'm thinking, where the authors are coming, is here we are talking about, when you get these, like, there, those kind of like, grave situations, you need to build the relation to that, right? Where you're there to communicate. You have to have an open relationship. So for that, maybe you don't want to bother with every little thing, but if it's really bothering you and you need help, or if it's really bothering your wife or somebody, we need to have this practice going on. Maybe practice it with one or two situations. And when the main situation comes, she'll reach out to you, right? I have many times, I have issues, but I don't know how to reach out because we never made this kind of a platform for each of us to share our, to give, like, I'm there for you. We both go, we are like, oh, we are riding in this boat together. That's it. Like, like we are like, the train track, two rails, we'll just keep going parallel, your way, my way. We can't go away. But I don't think that, and this is basically, I think the authors are trying to give us tools to how to overcome situations when we fall in these traps, and they're telling you mind will take you. At that time, logic won't work, when these things happen, like that mother that I talked about, Gautami, she wasn't accepting death. So those kind of situations, you need help. And if you have formed a circle or relation or somewhere, you are able to reach out. I think that's what they're building. That's anybody else can answer to, please.
Yeah,
Uh,
Vindhya ma'am,
yeah.
there's one word in your entire thing: acceptance.
Yeah, definitely.
I think because when we are in a relationship, we are having that relationship with respect to our physical body, with respect to our finances, with respect to community and everything. But how close you are having a relationship with your partner emotionally determines your spiritual relationship. I think that's what is happening between Siddhartha and his wife here. They're very emotionally attached. They respect each other's privacy, they respect each other's choices. They don't get aloof from the other person's choices. They respect the choice of the other person. And that's what was that relationship between Siddhartha and Yashodhara. And that's why she couldn't take it when he left her and went out without telling what's happening. Because he himself didn't know what was happening with her. So that was one abyss that was happening between them. But in our day-to-day relationships, I really feel that we have every relationship with our partner, but we are not having emotional relationship with our partner. That's creating a major problem. And we look for other people, or we look for our mother, sister, everyone, friend to, vent out that relationship. Vent out that emotion. So when we start building or accepting the person as is, no matter, we might not like few things about that thing, but we can, accept the person is for whatever his or her likes and dislikes are, and slowly try to integrate that communication with them. I think then we slowly start building our emotional relationship, and then everything will be easy. But the first thing that we need to start is accept and see the person as is. Her likes, her dislikes, her status of thinking, everything, or his status of thinking and everything. I think that's where the first step to, bond that relationship will start. I feel this
Probably,
my
ma'am,
2
I
cents.
would add that even the authors, if you see, that's why I spent the time telling their story. When, if you remember yesterday, Sam, when he left, to pursue his career, whatever he left, he did not even discuss it. And the author herself says that hurt her a lot, not that he went away. The thing that he couldn't discuss that with her and, did not give importance to her is what hurt. So later on, when he makes the conscious decision that he really wants to get into the spirituality and he wants to support, that's when they come. And so from then on, they make that agreement, whatever, if it is making her happy, I will be there for her. So they came and then they called it a spiritual relationship. But whatever it is, I'm trying to say is, not just being in our own world and assuming the other one will understand. It has to be discuss, or at least see what they're feeling, and they will accept. She will be fine him going, but if he had discussed, right, that's what.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah,
This is
if there is a time. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, but one single sentence. See, it is based. The word is indifference. Indifference, consciously or unconsciously, hurts quite a bit. Thank you.
Sir, I think, coming to terms, and breaking that indifference is what is essence of relationship. I think being real. See what is happening these days. Most of the couples are drifting away. Why? Because they're seeking emotional support elsewhere. That is the main reason. It may not be physical. All of us are human beings at the end of the day. We must not forget we're emotional. So what is happening is, if they're not getting, see what happens most of the time, the wife is busy with her kids. She may not listen to him, whatever it is, or he may not make an effort thinking that it may lead to some, arguments or whatever it is. Okay. This is what happens. But there is somebody in the office who is listening to you. So what is happening is they're trying for emotional support most of the time. That is the reason the couples are breaking away. They feel cared, they feel emotionally supported elsewhere.
And another thing is they allow others to enter into their relationship. They listen to a lot of other people. They get influenced by others rather than sharing their emotional things with their partner. I think that's one of the main root cause for the relationship issues.
At the same time, I feel we take it as granted. Once you're married, we feel, a husband should do this and wife should do this. Like they're like norms, like, rules. But one has to understand you have to grow the relationship. Nothing comes with just by marrying and just by signing a paper. Nowadays, that's what I at least see like that, right? But you have to understand today, everyone is independent. Every person is independent in a way they have been grown up. So when you get engaged or when you get, why only this, every relation for that matter, why only husband and wife? Even if it is in-laws, even if it is your child, you have to grow that. Don't assume that, oh, this is available for her just because this relation is tagged as a husband or tagged as an in-law or a daughter-in-law. It has to grow. If I have to be with my mother-in-law, I have to grow that relationship. Not in terms of everything I have to agree to her, but to know how to disagree and yet be with her lovingly. So it has to grow. It will not come in one day. So every relationship for that matter, even the child, mother, what is mother doing to the child? It is growing as a relation. It is not one day. No one can become mother one day. So even if it is husband and wife, I feel many of us, we feel, oh, she's wife, she has to do all this listed work. oh, he's a husband, he has to give listed these things. And that's where I feel we fail to understand nowadays everyone is independent in every way. Even if I don't seek emotional, happiness in that relationship, I know how to get that from outside. I know how to share it and get that, way. So we are not completely dependent. At the same time, we should know when to express our need of each other. That is what Vidya ma'am says, that beautiful, those 4 sentences, that if I need you, it is not that every day I need to bother any person, but I'm really stuck. I have used all my talents and all my tricks and all my skills to deal that problem. Yet I feel I am stuck. That's the time when you ask for it. That I am not able to do it. That person may not be able to help you, but at least they will hear you, right? I'm just here to hear you. And that really, even if it is a very silly thing for us, may be a big thing for that. The child may feel, I cannot put my things in place, but that's the struggle the child is going. How many parents have that patience to listen? I am still learning that. I feel, oh, just to put those things in a place, how much big thing is for you. But that's the struggle that the child is going. So similarly, if you're anywhere, one thing I really felt is that, yeah, experience as you age, that's the reason we bend or bow to the elders, is because of this. I feel because they're more experienced, and life is all about experience, and it does count whether you have a professional degree or you don't have. And that's what truly reflects in Prajapati's personality. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Also, I want to tell one more thing, as Usha ma'am said, the other person may not be interested to hear. It is not like that. You make an effort every time. You will see the third time they will come. I think we have forgotten to do it. And, even though we are husband and wife, we have our own, as she said, we have our own walls built around us. My friends know me better than my husband. Then what is we have chosen to live with them for 20, 30 years. We have been living, say, suppose, or else take 5 years, constantly 24/7 we are living and we don't know them. And as Ravli ma'am said, when we were started this book club, actually we started, I thought I experimented, certain little things, to know my husband, like what is the, likingness of color, or whatever. There were so many little facts. I didn't know really. I have been in this marriage for 17 years. I really don't know him. So that is how you have to make an effort. Constant effort is needed, and we should start living in real sense. Thank you so much, masters. Vindya ma'am, beautiful as yesterday. Thank you so much. Love you.
Book, which is beautiful, the author's message. I hope I
And
Spirituality,
lastly, I would like to.
relationship. Sorry,
Yes,
Sonu ma'am. One thing. Spirituality and relationship has one thing in common. It's a journey. You cannot stop and start.
Actually, I'm
And
glad
we have chosen
Let
our.
me just finish that statement. Actually, I'm glad you said that, Ravi sir, because I was also going to say, I think I have to go back and research. It's forever. The book that is there. It talks about relationships, and I think practicing spirituality in relationships, since most of us are in spiritual path, observe yourself. Why am I getting angry? Is it like, is it at the other person, or is it at the act, or is it myself? Am I angry that I was not able to do this? That's why I'm angry at them. Make it a practice. And that's where we don't have to meditate and get that. We can do it that's what the author's also saying. Make your relationship a spiritual practice. And I know it's maybe a little far-fetched, but it'll help. So now, Swarna ma'am, you can go.
Yeah, so we have chosen them. We should not forget that we have chosen them as our partner. So whatever test cases they are giving, something is annoying. That's for us to grow, for our soul to grow. So we have to cultivate the oneness. When we have oneness, if something is annoying in her, that means you are annoying yourself. So that is the concept. If we can understand that, we don't annoy. So say if they are showing, yeah, that's pretty, just laugh and say, yes, pretty. But when can you say that this is pretty? So when you are calm, your mind is calm and peaceful, then only that word calm mind will come, right? Otherwise, even though it's unnecessary, but it should not annoy us. Anything is annoying that we need to work on. So, and we need to remember all these, our home is our teacher, first teacher, first guru is our home. So we don't need to go outside. If we can win our husband, our kids, and ourselves, then we can win the world. So I'm just working on it, and I know how it is. Those 4 words, it's hard to come when something is, you are not in line with a spouse. You don't want to say, hey husband, I'm here for you, because you are inside, oh my God, I'm so angry with you. Why should I say I'm here with you, right? So no, but once you work on it really, see, I said, right, because my even though we both are we loved and we married in the college, but at that time it was, everything is fairy tale. Then after that, these characters come into picture, right, that you chose. You told your in-laws, hey, in-law, can you, so Patri says, beautiful, we are all acting. If you can hear that YouTube video that till yesterday to today, today they were playing, right? So we are all actors here. So we told our in-law, hey, mother-in-law, can you please act for me this one so I can grow? Hey, father-in-law, hey, husband, can you please? So exactly, I'm relating like that. Yes, you're acting. So I will act here, fully act. So that's how we have to do more meditation and listen to these things. So the acting part comes in. So acting, what is there, right? What's wrong? So then just say, yes, it's beautiful. Just laugh and it's beautiful. Just doesn't mean anything. So she will be happy, and slowly she will also lose interest. So yeah,